Welcome back to Dragon Ball Dissection December. I just couldn't help myself. I had to put out one more. But it is definitely going to end with this video, if only because of the logistical impossibilities caused by December ending. I didn't think I'd have time to add a bonus 5th video again this year, but, well, I do the best I can. It doesn't take Vegeta very long to overcome his pity party at not being a Super Saiyan. He kills Buddha and Recoome just to prove he's powerful enough to kill 2 unconscious people. Then he chastises Goku for being soft enough to complain about it, concluding that he must not be a Super Saiyan after all. Then later on, when Goku fights against Ginyu and offers to show him mercy, Ginyu, who had likewise assumed Goku was a Super Saiyan, decides he must not be. Apparently a Super Saiyan also loves battle more than anything, so if Goku shows leniency, he must not be one. And by the time Vegeta is fighting Jis, he's come all the way around to announcing that he's about to become a Super Saiyan. When it comes to rewriting history in his own head, Vegeta is certainly a master. But speaking of that leniency, we've seen Goku insist on finishing off bad guys just because they're bad. We've seen him spare a bad guy to keep his mentor from dying, and we've seen him spare bad guys simply because he wants to fight them again. But this whole I don't want to fight you thing is something of a new twist. Don't get me wrong, I like the story putting in as much of a contrast between Goku and Vegeta as possible, especially given how their respective paths are going to be laid out for the rest of the arc. And I also like the main hero having some heroic traits, but it does kind of feel like it was put in there just to distinguish him from Vegeta rather than being an organic development. I mean, what makes Goku say that Ginyu seems like a better guy than the rest? Because he has a warrior code that prohibits him from letting Jis get the jump on Goku? It didn't seem to bother Goku when he was fighting Raditz. Or when he passed the Genki Dama off to Kuririn when Vegeta was being distracted by Gohan. Was Kuririn being a worse guy than Ginyu when he got the drop on Recoome as he was about to kill Vegeta? I'm not saying I want Goku to mercilessly slaughter people, even bad guys. But it seems just as foolhardy to tell the worst people in the universe to leave the planet and go back to whatever it is they normally do. You know, Vegeta was a bit short-sighted earlier. He abandoned Goku hoping that he and Ginyu would finish each other off. Maybe he was banking on getting immortality with the Dragon Balls if he managed to head off Kuririn and Gohan, but whatever the reason, he now remembers he's probably going to need Goku in order to survive in their ultimate confrontation against Freeza. So he sticks Goku in a medical machine and then provides armor to Gohan and Kuririn. But their armor rather throws out my theory that Toriyama didn't feel like drawing shoulder pads anymore, since their armor is the newer, older style that Vegeta complained wasn't in his size. It does make me wonder, though, since they are designed to stretch significantly, does it really matter if they're too small? At any rate, Kuririn doesn't care for the shoulder pads, but Gohan does, and it's a nice, brief, relaxing scene that gets a little more world information explained, and gives the characters a chance to breathe in between fighting, so I approve. Kuririn, knowing there's a ticking clock, decides to go back to the Grand Elders once more in the hopes that maybe he'll explain the Dragon Balls properly this time. Meanwhile, in a subplot I've barely covered because it's rather boring, Freeza has made it to the Grand Elders and challenged Nail to a beating in order to find out how the Dragon Balls work. What Freeza doesn't realize, though, is that Nail is just a decoy. Before Freeza even got there, the Grand Elder had sent Dende back to give the Earthlings the information they needed. All the while, he laments that he should have told them initially. Yeah, he really should have. The funny thing is, though, that Freeza passes Dende on his way and decides he doesn't have to kill him. What is it with the bad guys getting screwed over not by their sadism, but by their few acts of mercy? This really should drive home the real moral, one we should all remember. Kill everybody. But Nail has finally had enough and admits to Freeza he's just stalling for time, and that Frieza's already too late. Except that, as we've already established, since the planet is in a constant state of daylight, you'd be able to tell the Dragon Balls are being used at any point on the planet. The sky hasn't darkened, so obviously Freeza isn't too late at this point. With such an obvious visual cue, you'd think that would make it easy to play it safe as to how long to draw out this diversion. So way to continue failing to live up to even our low expectations. But you know what? I'll give him this one. He's probably taken a few good blows to the head after all, and, well, miraculously, it does end up buying enough time, so maybe he's just really good at guessing this stuff. But thanks to Dende having long since left, Kuririn doesn't have to get very far before they find each other. And it turns out the trick they've been missing is that they have to speak in the Namekian language. And that should be obvious, since the resulting dragon speaks in Kuririn's language. I trust I don't have to explain how that makes sense. By some fantastic luck, Vegeta is sleeping, so Gohan and Kuririn decide to double-cross him by sneaking away with the Dragon Balls to make their wish. And so after having spent right at a year in this story arc, we finally get to see the Namekian Shenlong. His name is Purunga, which is Namekian for God of Dreams. He's much larger than Shenlong, and while Shenlong is clearly based on a Chinese-style dragon, Porunga is much more anthropomorphic. And Krillin and Gohan naturally express surprise at being told he grants 3 wishes, despite the fact that that information was the basis of their decision to team up with Vegeta. But they are in a really big hurry because they can already sense Freeza approaching, and Freeza is pissed. He is so pissed he completely left his hover chair behind. Now he's not going to get his deposit back. What a terrible day! So Dende makes the wish to bring back to life those killed on Earth by the Saiyans, but it turns out that the Namekian Dragon Balls don't allow grouping multiple resurrections together under one wish. If they want to bring people back to life, they have to do it one at a time. And that's a problem considering they have 3 wishes and 4 dead people. But everyone at Kaio's has been watching what is transpiring, and Piccolo asks to speak to Gohan. You'd think he just wants to get Dibs to be wished back to life first by tapping into Gohan's affection for him, but as it turns out, he wants to be wished back to life first. But there's a reason. If he comes back to life, then so will God, which means the Earth's Dragon Balls will come back, so they'll have more wishes. That is a very intelligent idea. Then for the second wish, he has to be transported to planet Namek. That is an incredibly stupid idea, and one that invalidates the justification for the first wish. Let's just risk everything we've worked for this entire arc by dropping Piccolo onto a planet so he can get in a fight with a very pissed off, very strong guy who probably has an intense hatred right now for all people whose skin color is green. And besides, didn't the Lord of Worlds make him promise not to go up against Freeza? Do you want to say something about that, Kaio? Nope, not a word, okay. Piccolo says they can do whatever they want with the third wish. Ooh, I have an idea. You should bring Chaozu back to life. We know he can't be restored with the Earth's Dragon Balls, so maybe we should give that a shot here with these Dragon Balls while we have a chance. Otherwise, he's going to stay dead forever. Anybody want to bring that up? No? Well, I mean, Kaio's doing his best to bring attention to the matter by wearing Chaozu's hat, no doubt hoping it will remind people that he exists. But it's to no avail because nobody cares about Chaozu. Piccolo is transported to planet Namek, but to everyone's surprise, they don't see him. It turns out Porunga just dropped him off in a random spot on the planet just to be a dick, I guess. But then again, the way Dende expresses his surprise, as in, "Oh, you wanted him right here?" makes me think Dende must have worded the wish to specifically say, just drop him any old place. But as Chaozu sits in a corner weeping over the fact that his so-called friends are now debating whether to waste a third wish just to get Piccolo an Uber rather than bring him back to life, it turns out they never get the chance. Because Vegeta has awakened, figured out what's going on, and is livid to the point of being homicidal. In other words, every morning for him. However, he calms down once he finds out there is still one wish left. But before they can make Vegeta immortal, the Grand Elder conveniently dies, so the Dragon Balls are no more. And it's just in time for Freeza to show up, ready to kill them all. Meanwhile, Piccolo is on his way to Gohan and the others, but his flight plan just happens to take him right past Nail, who is still lying in a pool of his own blood, alone and forgotten, as he should be. But he does tell Piccolo that he thinks he knows Frieza's abilities, and he laments that Piccolo is not a whole Namekian because at the level he's achieved, he would be more than a match for Freeza if he was. Instead, Nail offers to let Piccolo assimilate him instead. Piccolo has some objections, but Nail assures him that his character won't intrude upon Piccolo's individuality. And I mean, how could it? He doesn't have a character to begin with. It becomes clear now the only reason he looks like Piccolo, the only reason he exists at all, is to be the Namekian equivalent of magic power boosting water. All I can say is, this had better be worth it. Back at the battle, Freeza tries to be intimidating, and it works on most of them. But Vegeta, despite a few seconds earlier claiming that immortality was their only chance at surviving, seems convinced they have a chance against Freeza, especially since he's close to becoming a Super Saiyan, which is apparently what Freeza fears the most. Funny, because I was under the impression Vegeta had been told Freeza was afraid of Saiyans gaining power and ganging up together. Yeah. But Vegeta and Freeza grapple for a bit, leading to the final Scouter explosion in the series. Good riddance. And then Vegeta suggests that Freeza transform using that bit of information Zarbon had leaked out in an attempt to catch Freeza off guard. Now, I hear a lot of people argue that this is a huge mistake on Vegeta's part, in league with other very stupid, self-serving, arrogant acts he does to help bad guys out in later parts of the series. But I don't agree with that at all. As far as I'm concerned, this makes perfect sense given what he knows at the time. Yes, he severely underestimates how big of a change it will be, but the fact of the matter is, unlike later villains in the series, Freeza can transform at will. He can do it whenever he wants to. The only circumstance in which Vegeta telling Freeza to transform would be a mistake is if First Form Frieza is weak enough for Vegeta and the gang to easily overpower and kill, and let's face it, he's not. So the alternative in this case is to fight against First Form Frieza and do their best to wear him down. If they get very, very lucky and manage to back Frieza into a corner, all he's going to do is transform. Only in this scenario, they will have already wasted a good portion of their energy in a battle that doesn't even matter. Obviously, we know the second form doesn't matter either, and that's a rant for another day, but none of them knows that. I agree what Vegeta's doing is a risk, but that's what he's been doing this entire arc. And in this case, cutting to the chase seems like a reasonable strategy. It's only with the benefit of hindsight that it appears to be a bad idea. So Frieza gives Vegeta what he wants and transforms into a huge hulking version of himself. With just a gesture, he blows away the entire landmass they're standing on, and then, before anyone can react, he impales Kuririn through the stomach with his horn. But as the heroes lament their first casualty and come to grips with just how over their heads they're in, it's time for Dragon Ball Dissection December to come to a close. So thank you for tuning in once again. I hope it's been as much fun for you as it has been for me. And what a great year for MistareFusion. I put out more videos this year than I have in any other previous year. We've traveled to Namek, fought off a huge brain, made friends with a cute dragon, and explored all of our footwear options. We played some fun video games, repaired some video games, we watched Batman get out of some tight scrapes, we interviewed a real Dragon Ball scholar, we even got to talk to the Ninja Turtles while wearing a bikini. I was hanging out recently at Geekdom 101's house, and we got to talking about the enormous privilege it is to be able to post our opinions on the internet and have people out there who want to listen to them. And the end of the year reminds me of that more so than any other time. So thanks to all of you for being here, for watching, for listening, for engaging in debates, even when we don't agree. You continue to make all of this worthwhile. Happy 2017! Now, so nobody's surprised, I am probably going to take a little bit of a break to recuperate after this marathon of Dragon Ball Dissection videos, but when Dragon Ball Dissection picks up again in the next year, it will be with the Bardock television special, because apparently 1990 just can't get enough of evil Gokus. It seems the world just can't get enough of this character considering he keeps coming back, and they can't even decide what kind of character he is. We'll try to figure it out ourselves as we look not only at the original introduction of the character, but also the 2011 sequel, and then Toriyama's own surprising reboot. So next time we'll begin our journey into the adventures of Son Goku's father. See you there! Come to think of it, the Freeza battle takes place on Christmas Eve. I wonder if I shouldn't just leave the snow in the title sequence.